Hello, welcome to Screen Talk with yours truly, Nomfanelo. So, before I get into the topic of this video, I do want to share my results of my Oscar predictions. So, if you haven't seen my predictions video, you could go check that out either through the link in the description or above the video. So, essentially with that, I got 18 out of 23 right, which I'm pretty proud of myself because I saw a lot of people were got around that range or lower. I mean, in retrospect, I probably should have chose Emma Stone for Best Actress instead of Lily Gladstone, and with production design, I should have went with Poor Things, because I think I was a bit iffy on that when I made the video at the time. But with actress, because I went with Gladstone because of the SAG win, and it seemed like the momentum was shifting her way, which turned out to be the opposite with the Oscars. And yeah, production design. As soon as I saw poor things, like essentially cleaning those categories, I knew, yeah, like, oh, Poor Things is going to take production design. So I think really it's just the moral is try not to overthink these stuff, because sometimes the answers are just right in front of you. That goes with adapted screenplay is was American fiction this whole time. I think, as I've mentioned before, because of the Writers Guild not happening prior to the Oscars, that's why I was a bit conflicted with that category. That's why I went with Oppenheimer. But had the Writers Guild cured prior, I would have went with American fiction. And yeah, with sound was quite surprising for a lot of people, because I went to watch the Oscars live at the Bytown Theater. There was a lot of people there, and when they announced Zone of Interest winning Best Sound, everyone was essentially shocked. But regardless, proud for that win, because even though I wasn't a fan of the Zone of Interest, the technical aspects, particularly with the sound, which is hard to deny with that movie. And the documentary shorts, the shorts like is up in the air because there's no precursors typically. So I was glad I got animated short and live action short. But yeah, with documentary short, I wasn't too sure because I haven't seen them, and plus it could have went to anyone. But yeah, I think the right call seemed like was made for that category in terms of the win. So with this video, I just want to talk about my takeaways from the awards season as a whole. Now, technically, it does not end until the Writers Guild, which happens on April 14th, but I'm not really gonna watch the Writers Guild. I don't know if that's televised, or if they're just gonna announce it online. But but yeah, I figured for that one, American fiction is definitely gonna win adapted screenplay, and for original screenplay, I have my money on Past Lives, because it seemed like with Celine Song, kept winning awards where she could during award season. So that would be my best bet. It will be very interesting if The Holdovers won original screenplay, given the news of the plagiarism accusations, but we shall see on that one. So, throughout the season, I noticed in terms, I'm going to focus on the ceremonies first. So the ones that I watched live were Golden Globes, Screen Actors Guild, and the Oscars. I saw clips of BAFTAs and Critics' Choice. So I noticed in terms of the ceremonies themselves, the presenters were more entertaining than the actual host. I don't know if that was by design or if that just happened, but that was essentially my observation throughout award season. The one of them that stood out to me was with Golden Globes when Andre Day and John Batiste presented original score and original song.
It took me from singing in a strip.
Their chemistry and their banter back and forth was quite hilarious, and I would love to see them come back either as presenters or as hosts in any award show. And another one that stood out to me was with the Oscars, with Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger having their twins reunion, and Junior, if you guys seen that one. But really, they were there as a little Batman reunion, as they mentioned during their presentation when they were announcing, what was it, editing and visual effects, because that whole bit with them and Michael Keaton was just hilarious. And as like for the hosts themselves, Joy Coy, I would say, based on those shows that I've seen, Joe Coy was essentially the worst one.
Yo, I got the gig 10 days ago. You want a perfect monologue? Yo, shut up.
I'm sure a lot of you would agree on that front. And the fact that he essentially blamed his performance on the writers is telling. And I don't see him coming back to any award show anytime soon, at least with the major ones. But I'm sure, like with that performance at the Golden Globes, it will probably inspire him to make a lot of material for his comedy specials. And Kimmel as the Oscars host for me was okay. He was like hit and miss for me. I thought like there were a couple jokes I felt were not necessary, particularly with the Robert Downey Jr. bit. And also, too, that whole skit with John Cena doing the naked streaking, I thought was not necessary. I'm like, did we need this here? And but yeah, he was fine overall. And Idris Elba as like the de facto host for SAGs was great with based on his bits. Because I don't know if that was done intentionally or if that just happened, but I would love to see Idris Elba host any award show in the future. And in terms of the presentation of these ceremonies, I thought they were okay as a whole. If I were to rank them, in my opinion, from best to worst, I'd probably go with the SAG Awards, then Oscars, then Golden Globes. But Golden Globe and Oscars are kind of interchangeable. So because I guess Screen Actors Guild, I really appreciated they did a good job in terms of the reunions. The one that stood out to me was obviously the Devil Wears Prada reunion with Emily Blunt, Anne Hathaway, and Meryl Streep.
That wasn't a question.
And yeah, the Oscars I felt could have been better, particularly when in some categories they did not announce the nominees, which I bet was upsetting for the nominees in those categories, which were original song and best picture. Speaking of Best Picture with Al Pacino, the way he announced Oppenheimer as the winner is hilarious. And I saw, I think it was Variety published article where apparently it was a producer's decision to make that choice, which was weird because they started earlier at 7 o'clock. So I figured they would have an ample amount of time, you know, to announce nominees and all that stuff. But I don't know why they went with that choice at the end. And in terms of the past acting winners, I thought, yeah, that was nice to bring back. It's just one of those things where, in theory, it works, but it's just how it's executed. It needs work, in my opinion. I felt there should have been a montage of the nominees at the beginning before bringing the past acting winners up to give their little speeches to each nominee and all that stuff. So I know like some people would feel that the clips or montages were not necessary, but I just feel like for the average viewer at home that's not familiar with all of these performances, it just would have been nice to have that reminder. Same thing too with Best Picture. If they're not going to show clips for that, like at the end, just have the presenter say the names of the nominees before announcing the winner. And also too, I thought Golden Globes was okay. It's been a while since I've seen that ceremony. I just remember that it was weird with the way the presenters were essentially not facing the audiences for the most part, which was a weird choice. But I think other than that, the Golden Globes ran smoothly. So that's pretty much my takeaways in terms of the ceremonies themselves. Now, in terms of the wins, it was just nice. It's always nice during award season that your favorite movie dominates award season, because otherwise, if your favorite movie doesn't do that, then it will make a very boring movie. But yeah, in this case, I my Oppenheimer was my favorite movie. I was just glad that that movie swept award season essentially. Like it always won Best Picture in terms of the major precursors, director, actor, supporting actor, and so forth. So because usually with award season, there's always like the front runner, but then as it goes on, a new front runner emerges, and then they end up winning the big prize. But in this case, with Oppenheimer, that did not happen. So I just wondered, like, what would have if Oppenheimer didn't win? What would have been the alternative choice? If I were to guess in terms of Oscars, Poor Things, because that had the second amount of wins with four, while Oppenheimer had seven. Or maybe the Zone of Interest could have took it. So I believe one of those two movies. With everything else, I don't think had a chance, in my opinion, just based on how things played out during award season. But but yeah, congratulations to cast and crew of Oppenheimer on their performance during award season, which was fantastic. And also, too, another takeaway from award season is do not listen to outside opinions, because I notice that with some experts or pundits or whatever you call them, it was just weird that we're gonna talk about the best actor race. It was just weird that for some of them, they ignored they just ignored the signs essentially that Killian Murphy was going to win. Instead, some of them were, or a lot of them were predicting Paul Giamatti to win for various reasons. A lot of them kept saying the overdue narrative. I mean, sure, he's overdue, but you can make that case for every single of the nominees. But it was just weird that they singled Paul Giamatti for that particular reason.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
But really, at the end of the day, like if you guys listen to those particular people in terms of predictions, it'd be just wise to ignore them, because clearly when they were making those choices, it was a very subjective choice as opposed to following the signs, because it would just be easier to pay attention to the industry wins and the guilds, because those are really the key factors in terms of determining who is going to win and so forth. So either do that or just find alternative experts or pundits that will be more objective with their choice. So to be clear, like for me, I don't pay attention to outside noise for the most part because I make my own choices just based on like who's winning the awards and also to any I pay attention to the past winners and so forth. So that's how that's my thought process. Sometimes I'll get the outside noise will might influence my decision, particularly with best actress, which I'll get into right now. So with that race, that was essentially between Lily Gladstone and Emma Stone for that one. So for a lot of people, it was a toss up between those two because when it started with Golden Globes, both Lily and Emma won their respective Golden Globes. When it came to BAFTA, Emma Stone won, but Lily Gladstone was not even nominated. And then with SAG, Lily Gladstone won, but then with the Oscar at the end, Emma Stone took that one. So I think, yeah, for me, it seemed like with the way BAFTA turned out, that things were heading Emma Stone's way. So in retrospect, I should have stuck with that choice. But with SAG, essentially winning the SAG award is a big deal because they are a big voting block and all that stuff. So yeah, I think that's why a lot of people, including myself, went with Lily Gladstone for the Oscar. Now, to be clear, like I would have been happy if either or won the Oscar, but with Emma Stone winning the Oscar, ultimately, in my opinion, was the right decision. So again, it would have been cool if Lily Gladstone won, but I just think there were some obstacles with Lily Gladstone, particularly with the whole debate on is it a lead or a supporting performance. I've seen some people suggest, oh, she should have went with supporting. I mean, I don't think I think the end results would have still been the same because essentially Divine Joy Randolph was sweeping that whole category throughout award season. So I don't think it would have made much of a difference. But I'm sure it would have made an interesting race. But I just don't think it would have changed the end result, in my opinion. So and essentially, with the Best Actress race, it mirrored what happened with Olivia Colman and Glenn Close back in 2019. I think yeah, the paths were similar, but essentially Olivia Colman won over Glenn Close in terms of Best Actress, and I think really just shows that you have to look towards the better film because Poor Things won 4 awards, while with Killers of the Flower Moon did not win anything. Because it just seemed that after Golden Globes, that with Killers of the Flower Moon was faltering. But but yeah, anyways, that was an interesting race. Another race that was interesting was for animated feature with Spider Verse versus The Boy and the Heron. Now, I obviously got this prediction right with The Boy and the Huron winning the Oscar. I mean, it was very obvious why it won, in my opinion, because for one, it's not a sequel and it just showed that yeah, don't underestimate the international votes because I get why people were going with Spider Verse because it had the PGA, the Annie Awards, and so forth. But yeah, I always stuck with The Boy and the Huron winning this whole time, and that proven to be true. And I do think also too what hurted Spider Verse was the controversy surrounding the mistreatment of the animators, which, if you remember, that was published on Vulture not long after Spider Verse came out back in June. And sure, maybe the release date was a factor because Spider Verse came out in June, while Boy and Heron came out in December. So that could have been a factor, but yeah, regardless, I in my opinion the best movie won. And Yeah, and also too, my take another takeaway is that the BAFTAs are back because last year, uh, BAFTAs did not do a great job because with their selections, it did not even win any Oscars. Because I believe with last year they were all in on Banshees, but with the Oscars they all went with Everything Everywhere All at Once in terms of the wins it was eligible for and all that stuff. So this year with BAFTAs, it ended up winning 8 for 8 in terms of the main categories, but overall it got 18 of their wins right in terms of the Oscars, which was great. I guess the only one that they didn't get was visual effects because Poor Things was not even nominated for the Oscar. I don't recall if Godzilla was nominated for the BAFTA. I don't think that was the case, but yeah, good job with the BAFTAs. And lastly, sorry, another takeaway is that the film not only not has to be good, but there needs to have the passion behind it. And in this case, I want to talk about Godzilla Minus One. It seemed clear after when that movie came out back in December in theaters. A lot of people loved that movie for various reasons. And when that movie, I remember when it got nominated for visual effects, the people in the room were overwhelmingly cheering for that nomination.
Godzilla Minus One.
Now I know, like, oh, with the amount of cheers and all this stuff don't matter, but it seemed like in this case that was true. Because I kept seeing like with the team they were promoting, they were trying to campaign for the movie, and they had like their Godzilla figurines, which was cute, and they had a nice VFX package and all that stuff. And I was obviously rooting for that movie to win, like regardless, like on its Oscar chances and all that stuff. Now I get why people were going to predict the creator because it did well, like in terms of the industry guild and all that stuff. But really, at the end, Godzilla Minus One prevailed in that category. And I think really it all comes down to having the better movie. And I think more people saw Godzilla over the creator. And I think the reviews and all that stuff was a factor in all that stuff. So, yeah, that was just great. And lastly, I just want to talk briefly about the music. So, music was had a good year this year because Oppenheimer essentially dominated that category, and the fact they had like that live show was fantastic based on what I've seen on social media. And Barbie also did a had a great year too, like with the Billie Eilish song "What Was I Made For" and "I'm Just Ken." Now I get why some people wanted "I'm Just Ken" to win the Oscar, but I do think it lost simply because it's viewed as a novelty song, even though it has like a great significance in the film. But I just think that it just wouldn't be taken too seriously, in my opinion. But yeah, like I'm glad Billie Eilish won that song because I prefer that song over the James Bond song that they won their Oscar for back in 2021. And but yeah, like the Ryan Gosling performance at the Oscars was a fantastic, definitely a highlight of the Oscars for sure. And it's funny. I saw some people suggest that oh, they should have allowed the voters to vote after the performance, which I disagree with, because even though like it gave a great performance, I don't think it would have changed the end result in my opinion. But yeah, regardless, like music was. Great this year in terms of award season. And I do want to shout out to Murder on the Dance Floor from Saltburn because I believe that's a song that came out originally back in the 2000s, but because of Saltburn with the final scene in that movie, that essentially became popular. And and good. And I guess great on the artist. I forgot like her name, but yeah, good on her. I guess because it gave, I guess, that song a resurgence, and the performance at the BAFTAs was solid on that one. So those are pretty much some of my takeaways from award season. What moments stood out to you? Like were both good and bad. So let me know in the comments section. And also too, you could check the link for my socials in the description. Also too, if you want to support the channel, you can visit my buy me a coffee link, where you could either donate by buying me a coffee or join my memberships. We'll start be posting stuff there. And I want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in. Now I will catch you on the next one.